I was this close. The kind of close where you can already taste the commission check. Where you've already mentally spent the bonus on that new patio furniture your wife, Sarah, has been circling in the catalog. On my screen, Mr. Nakamura, a big-shot VP from a notoriously high-strung client, was nodding. In my world, the world of IT project management, a client nod is better than a signed contract. It's the sacred moment of buy-in. "So, as you can see, Mr. Nakamura," I said, deploying my sincere problem-solver voice, the one I reserved for multi-million-dollar rollouts. "By restructuring the data flow, we're not just patching the system, we're creating a paradigm shift in efficiency." He nodded again, a slow, appreciative gesture. "This is very impressive, Mr." And then it started. It wasn't a noise. It was a force, a physical presence, a sound like a dozen garbage disposals fighting a family of angry raccoons over a malfunctioning drum machine. It was a chaotic, rhythmic, furious assault on the very concept of silence. In short, my son's band. Mr. Nakamura's eyebrows shot up so fast they nearly flew off his head. His polite nod froze, shattering into a mask of pure, unadulterated bafflement. "Ba-da-da-dum-dum, ksh-gah!" I yelped, fumbling for the mute button on my headset. My mouse skittered across the desk. "Mute! Mute! Mute!" I slammed the button, plunging my end of the call into a blessed digital silence. But in my house, the audiopocalypse raged on. My 16-year-old, Leo, was in the garage directly below my home office, leading his band, Suburban Tinnitus, in their daily assault on human decency. That particular crunch was Kyle, the drummer, who believed cymbals were meant to be executed, not played. The scraping, wailing sound, like a cat being introduced to a cheese grater? That was Leo, my pride and joy, attempting the opening riff to "Smoke on the Water" for what must have been the 8,000th time. He was, as always, failing. Loudly. I unmuted, sweat beading on my forehead. I had to say something. I had to salvage this. "Ah, ha-ha," I laughed, a strangled, high-pitched noise. "Sorry about that. Must be, testing the house alarm. You know. Security." Mr. Nakamura stared at me. He was not a man who laughed at house alarms. "Mr. Davis, it sounded like you were being attacked. Just a very thorough test. Aggressive, even. They simulate a break-in." With a drum solo. The meeting was over. I knew it. He knew it. Even Sam, the bass player, who I'm pretty sure just plugged his instrument into a dead amp and hoped for the best, would have known it. "You know what?" Mr. Nakamura said, his voice stiff. "This is energetic, but I have a hard stop. Let's reschedule. My assistant will be in touch." The call ended. The little red REC light on my webcam blinked off. I sat there, in the silence of my office. But the other noise, the cacophony from below, continued. "Kersh, badum dum badum." "Leo," I whispered, hanging my head. I had just lost the patio furniture. Section 1.2. The First Sighting. I stormed out of my office, my project manager disappointment morphing into pure, unfiltered dad rage. I wasn't mad that they were playing. I was mad that they were playing now. During the Nakamura call, we had a system. Practice was at 5 p.m. It was 3:30. I stomped down the stairs, rehearsing my speech. It was a good one. It had pathos. You know how important my work is? Logic. We have a schedule, and a schedule is the backbone of a civilized society and a strong concluding threat. And if we can't stick to the schedule, maybe we don't have a band at all. I threw open the door to the garage, and the sound hit me like a physical punch. It was 1,000 times louder in here. "Guys!" I roared, but they couldn't hear me. I marched over and flicked the switch on the power strip, killing the amps. The drum solo wound down, Kyle looking confused. "Dad, what the heck? We were in the middle of a—" "It's 3:30, I yelled, my voice raw. Yeah?" Leo said, genuinely confused. "The Nakamura call, the one I've been prepping for all week." Leo's face went pale. Oh, crap. Dad, I'm so sorry, I totally— But he was cut off, not by me. By a voice. A voice that was high, thin, and vibrating with an indignation so powerful I'm surprised my windows didn't shatter. "Are you the adult in charge of this disaster?" I spun around. Standing on the edge of my driveway, hands planted firmly on her polo-shirted hips, was a woman. I'd never seen her before. She was in her late 50s, with a visor pulled down low, expensive-looking running shoes, and a face that looked like she'd just been forced to smell spoiled milk. I stepped out of the garage, the kids peering out from behind me, suddenly silent. "I'm the adult who pays the mortgage for this disaster, yeah," I said, squinting in the sunlight. "Can I help you?" "I am Brenda Henderson," she announced, as if I should have known. "I just moved into 428, the Blue Colonial, and I have to say I am appalled." "Welcome to the neighborhood," I offered weakly. "This is a quiet neighborhood," she snapped, ignoring me. "I was assured it was quiet. I have a sensitive disposition, and your cacophony is a direct violation of my peace, and probably several town ordinances." "Okay, I get it. The music is loud. I was just about to shut it down myself. I put on my reasonable neighbor face. Look, I'm sorry about that. They're just kids. They're supposed to be practicing later, but they got their schedule mixed up. It won't happen again at all," she cut me off. "This is not a commercial zone. You can't run a rock club from your garage. It's unsightly. It's disruptive. It's tacky." My reasonable neighbor face flickered. "Tacky? They're children. They need to be playing. I don't know. Outside. Quietly." "Ma'am," I said, my patience shredding. "They're kids. They're loud. I'm sorry it bothered you. I'm handling it. They'll be done." She took a small, aggressive step onto my driveway. "They'll be done now, or I will be forced to escalate." Escalate? Who talks like that? This isn't a performance review. She held my gaze for another second, her nostrils flaring. Then, seeing I wasn't immediately prostrating myself in apology, she huffed. "Mark my words," she said, spinning on her heel and marching off. I watched her go. "Mrs. Henderson," I called out, "it's a pleasure to meet you too." She didn't turn around. Behind me, Leo whispered, "Wow, she's a lot." "She's a Karen, dude," Kyle said, spinning a drumstick. "My mom's friends complain about them." "All right," I sighed, the rage from the call completely gone, replaced by a new, more profound annoyance. "Pack it up, guys, seriously. We'll talk about practice times tonight. My head is killing me." Section 1.3. The Escalation. An hour later, I was in the kitchen, nursing a strong cup of coffee and a giant headache. I'd emailed Mr. Nakamura, begging for another chance, blaming a freak power surge on my alarm system. I was pretty sure he wouldn't reply. The kids were gone, scattered to their respective homes. The house was quiet. Then, a knock on the door. Not a neighbor knock. This was a heavy, official thump, thump, thump. I opened it. 2 police officers. One was older, with a mustache that had seen better decades, and a seen-it-all slump to his shoulders. The other was younger, bright-eyed, and looked like he was trying very, very hard not to smile. "Mark Davis?" The older one, Officer Miller, grunted. "That's me. Everything okay?" "Sir, we got a call about a public disturbance." He flipped open a notepad and read from it in a monotone. Caller reported aggressive rhythmic noise, violent clanging sounds, and, what sounded like satanic screaming. I blinked. "You mean my son's garage band?" The younger one, Officer Chen, coughed into his hand. She said it sounded like Satan's blender, sir. We had to check. Is Satan or his blender on the premises?" I sighed. "No, officer. Just 3 teenagers trying to learn a Nirvana song. They're not even here anymore." Miller nodded, his face impassive. "Look, Mr. Davis, it's 4:30 in the afternoon. Noise ordinance doesn't even kick in for another 6 hours. But disturbance is a vague term. And this, Mrs. Brenda Henderson, has called 911 3 times in the last hour." "3 times?" I said, incredulous. "We've been silent for an hour." "The first 2 were about the music," Chen said. "The third was about you, glaring at her when she walked by." "I wasn't glaring," I said. Well, maybe I was glaring, but that's not illegal." "No," Miller said, closing his notepad. "It's not. But here's the thing. We don't want to be here. You don't want us here. The dispatcher really doesn't want us here. She's passionate." "She's a menace," I muttered. "That's as may be. But the paperwork is the same. Just try to keep it down. Keep it civil. Don't give her a reason." "I'm the one who should keep it civil? She came onto my property." Miller just gave me the look. The one that says, "I am a tired cop and I do not care about your problems." "Have a good day, Mr. Davis," he said. They turned and walked back to their cruiser. I stood in my doorway, fuming. This was insane. I was being policed for my kids playing music. Badly, yes, but joyfully, in my own garage in the middle of the afternoon. And then I saw her. Across the street and 2 houses down, at 428. Brenda Karen Henderson. She was standing in her picture window, partially hidden by a curtain. She was watching the police car. And as it pulled away, she lifted a teacup to her lips in a little toast. She was smiling. A smug, tiny, I won smile. That's when the spark hit. It wasn't a noble spark. It wasn't a freedom of expression spark. It was a petty, malicious compliance spark. It was the project manager in me, the one who just got his Nakamura call blown, looking at a new, more interesting project. She wanted escalation? She wanted it quiet? "Okay," I muttered, a slow, dangerous grin spreading across my face. "We can keep it down. Oh, we are going to keep it so far down she won't know what hit her." I closed the door. "Sarah!" I yelled up the stairs. "Where do we keep the number for that contractor who did the deck?" That night, I assembled the board of directors. Me, my wife Sarah, and the members of Suburban Tinnitus. I'd set the scene in the kitchen. A serious meeting, but with a strategic buffer of Oreos and sodas on the table. The kids, Leo, Kyle, and Sam, were all perched on the stools, looking like they were awaiting a guilty verdict. "So," Leo started, nibbling the edge of an Oreo. "Are we banned?" Kyle looked devastated. "My mom's not going to drive me and my drums over here if we're not a band." I held up a hand. "Gentlemen, Mrs. Davis, we are here tonight to discuss a pivot, a strategic realignment. Sarah, who was leaning against the counter, raised an eyebrow. Oh boy, you're using your project manager voice. This is either going to be brilliant or we're about to buy a timeshare. What's going on, Mark? Banned? I said, looking at Leo. No, we're not banned. We are going bigger. Bigger? Sam, the bassist, spoke for the first time. But the cop said, and the lady, I said, pacing the kitchen, is the impetus. She's the problem that requires a solution. She wants it quiet, I agree. It is too loud. The kids deflated. So we have to stop, Leo sighed. No, I said, pointing a finger in the air. We have to stop being heard. We're not just going to practice. We're going to build a venue. A beat of silence. Dad, you're not making sense, Leo said. We are going to build a real, professional, 100% soundproof stage right here in our garage, I announced. She wants it quiet? We'll give her quiet. We'll give her silence. We'll build a room so soundproof you could fire a cannon in there and she wouldn't hear a thing on her porch. The kids stared at me. Then a slow dawning comprehension. Like a recording studio? Leo asked, his eyes wide. Exactly. A room within a room. A floating floor. Decoupled walls. A fortress of silence for the express purpose of rocking out. Kyle, a simple creature, got it first. So, I can hit my drums harder? As hard as your teenage angst-fueled heart desires, Kyle. A whoop went up from the kids. Sarah was trying to hide a smile behind her hand. Mark, this sounds expensive and complicated. Are you sure? I pulled my laptop from my bag and spun it around on the counter. I'm a project manager, honey. I've already made a project plan. I showed them the screen. I had a file open. Project Silent Tinnitus. Phase 1, Research and Acquisition. Phase 2, Construction and Implementation. Phase 3, Testing and Deployment. You're serious, Leo said, a huge grin spreading across his face. This is the coolest thing ever. It's not just cool, I said, pointing a cookie at him for emphasis. It's malicious compliance. It's the art of giving someone exactly what they asked for, in a way that makes them wish they'd never asked for anything at all. She wants silence? She'll get silence. But we will know that on the other side of that silence, there is rock. This is, Sarah said, finally laughing, this is the most ridiculously petty, passive-aggressive, and brilliantly you thing I've ever heard. I love it. But what's acquisition? That, I said, closing the laptop, is Phase 1, Task 2. I have a contractor coming tomorrow. Section 2.2. The Contractor, Interaction 1. The next morning, a truck pulled up that looked like it hauled other trucks for a living. It was a giant, slightly dented Ford F-350, and from it emerged a man who was, if possible, larger and more dented. He was a mountain in Carhartt overalls, with a beard that had bits of, was that sawdust, in it. The logo on his t-shirt read, Big Dave's Renovations. We can build it. We can wreck it. Mark Davis? He boomed. His voice sounded like a gravel truck. Big Dave, I said, shaking a hand that felt like a bundle of rebar. So, he said, skipping the small talk and stomping towards the garage. You said on the phone you wanted to soundproof this thing. Most folks mean they want me to staple up some foam. That's a waste of money. What are we really doing here? I liked him immediately. He was a no-fluff kind of guy. We're doing this right, I said. I'm an IT project manager. I've done my research. I don't want sound dampening. I want sound blocking. I'm talking a 60 decibel reduction, minimum. I want STC 65 or higher. I want a room within a room. Big Dave stopped. He turned and looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. A slow grin spread across his face. STC 65, he said, rubbing his beard. You're talking floating floor U-boat isolators. You're talking decoupled walls on resilient channels. You're talking a hat channel ceiling, mass-loaded vinyl, and 2 layers of 5/8-inch drywall with green glue. You know your green glue, I said, impressed. Son, he rumbled, I love green glue. It's the magic goo, but that right there is a very expensive project. That's not a my kid's band is loud project. That's a I'm building a professional recording studio project. He squinted at me. Or, it's a spite job. I just smiled. It's a spite job, isn't it? He roared, slapping his thigh. Oh, I knew it. I love spite jobs. They always pay on time, and they never argue about the materials. It's a passionate project, I said, motivated by a new neighbor with a sensitive disposition. A Karen, Dave bellowed. A Brenda, specifically. Brenda at 428, the one in the blue colonial, he said, pointing down the street. I knew it. My guys did the inspection on that house before she bought it. She tried to get a 10% discount because the driveway asphalt wasn't a deep enough shade of black. A true professional. This was better than I could have dreamed. So you'll do it? Do it, Dave said. Mark, I'm gonna make this garage my masterpiece. I was in a band in the 80s, you know. Get Out? Really? Poison Chalice, he said, with no hint of irony. I was the drummer. We were all about power and volume. We got noise complaints from 2 towns over. Building this is for the gods of rock. Or, you know, for your 3 teenagers. I also, I said, pressing my luck, want to build a small stage, with stage lights. Dave's eyes lit up. With trusses? Let's not get crazy. Just a 1-foot riser and some Ken lights. We can do that. We'll need a permit for the new electrical panel, but that's easy. The rest of it? He waved a giant hand around the garage. As far as the town is concerned, you're just upgrading your storage, adding insulation. Perfectly legal. He pulled out a tape measure and got a look in his eye I recognized. It was the same look I got when I was optimizing a database. We'll start Thursday, he boomed. First we gut this place. Then we float the floor. Your Brenda won't hear a peep. He was my hero. Section 2.3. The Karen Confrontation. Thursday morning, 7:59 a.m. I was in my kitchen, coffee in hand. I'd already told my team I was managing a critical on-site install and would be available but distracted. At 8:00 a.m. on the dot, the street descended into glorious, legal, industrious chaos. A massive flatbed truck arrived, loaded with an ocean of lumber and drywall. A 20-yard dumpster was dropped at the end of my driveway, the clang echoing through the quiet, suburban morning big. Dave's crew, 4 guys who all looked like smaller, less bearded versions of Dave, swarmed the garage. The sound of nail pullers, reciprocating saws, and hammers filled the air. They were gutting the existing drywall. It was loud. All, of course, during legal, city-approved construction hours. It took exactly 15 minutes. I saw her coming. Brenda Henderson, in a pink bathrobe and her visor, marching down the street like a one-woman invading army. She was holding her phone up, already recording. "What is this?" she shrieked, stopping just short of the dumpster. I was ready. I walked out my front door, holding my own coffee, and gave her my best friendly neighbor smile. "Morning, Brenda. Isn't it a great day for a home improvement?" You can't do this," she sputtered. The noise of a saw hitting a 2x4 punctuated her sentence. This is a residential zone. You can't run a business. This is a construction site." "It is a construction site, for now," I said cheerfully. "That's what happens when you renovate." "You're doing this to mock me," she yelled, her voice getting shrill. "Because of the noise. You're making more noise." "Brenda, I don't know what you're talking about," I said, the picture of innocence. "You inspired me. You were right. The garage was way too loud. The sound was just leaking everywhere. It was tacky, I think you said." I gestured to the organized chaos. "So I'm fixing it. I'm doing a full, top-to-bottom, sound-dampening renovation. It's for the kids. You wanted it quieter, Brenda. I'm making it quieter. This is me, being a responsible neighbor." She was momentarily speechless. Her brain just couldn't process the logic. You need permits for this," she finally landed on. "Got 'em right here," I said, pulling a plastic-sheathed paper from my mailbox. "This is the permit for the new electrical panel for the upgraded lighting. All above board. The rest," I said, echoing Big Dave, "is just storage improvement, insulating my garage, totally legal." She stared at the paper. She stared at the crew. She stared at me. I am reporting this," she screeched. "I'm calling the city. I'm calling the building inspector." "You do that," I called after her as she stormed off, still filming. "He'll be so impressed with the quality of the work." Big Dave, who had been watching from the garage entrance, gave me a slow, appreciative nod. "Oh yeah," he said. "This is a good spite job." The next 2 weeks were a blur of sawdust and invoices. My home office became the dining room table, as my actual office was now directly above a major construction zone. I didn't mind. I'd put on my noise-canceling headphones, crank up a productivity playlist, and watch the beautiful, methodical chaos unfold. Big Dave didn't just build, he orchestrated. "This," he explained to me on day 3, holding up a small U-shaped piece of black rubber, "is a U-boat isolator. This is where it all starts." The Fortress of Silence was, as promised, a room within a room. It was the most wonderfully over-engineered thing I'd ever seen. First, they built the floating floor. A new separate grid of 2x4s was laid down, but not on the concrete. Oh no, it rested on these little rubber U-boats. "It's like a boat in a bathtub," Big Dave explained, as I watched, fascinated. "The sound waves go down, they hit the new floor, and they try to travel into the concrete. But they can't. The rubber absorbs the vibration. The sound dies right here. The boat is the studio. The water is the rubber. The tub is your foundation. You gotta decouple the noise, Mark. You can't let the sound touch the outside world." It sounded like relationship advice. After the floor, the walls went up. But they didn't touch the existing garage walls. They were built on top of the new floating floor, a full 2 inches inside the original frame. A new, smaller, heavier box, completely disconnected from the house. "Now," Dave said, "the resilient channels." He showed me the hat channels, thin metal bars that looked like, well, a hat. The drywall isn't going on the studs, it's going on these. The channels get screwed to the studs, and the drywall gets screwed to the channels. That way the drywall hangs, it vibrates, but the vibration doesn't pass into the studs, and it doesn't pass into the house. It just gets tired and gives up. I'd never been so turned on by a building material in my life. Then came the magic. First, a layer of mass-loaded vinyl, thick, heavy black rubber sheets, was stapled to the new studs, covering every inch. It was like they were lining the room with lead. Then came the first layer of 5 8-inch drywall, thicker and heavier than standard. And then, the green glue. It came in caulk tubes, and the crew applied it in random, squiggly patterns all over the first layer of drywall. "Why not spread it?" I asked. "You don't want it to be a glue," one of his guys, Moose, explained. "You want it to be a goo. It's a viscoelastic dampening compound. It stays gooey. When the sound hits the first wall, the wall vibrates, but the goo in the middle, it eats it. It turns the sound energy into heat. A tiny, tiny bit of heat. By the time the vibration tries to get to the second wall, it's just gone." Finally, the second layer of drywall went on, sandwiching the goo. The room was complete. The kids were roped into helping. They got the fun job of painting the inside of the soundproof box. We'd chosen a rock and roll black. They complained about the fumes. It was low VOC, they were fine, but I could see the excitement. They were painting their own secret clubhouse. Big Dave's crew, true to their word, built the stage. A 1-foot-high, 8-by-12-foot riser at the far end. His electrician, a quiet guy named Sparky, wired up 6 recessed can lights above it, all on a dimmer. It looked legit. Of course, Brenda called Desad Inspector. She called him every day. Finally, on day 10, a tired-looking man in a city logo polo shirt pulled up. I'd been expecting him. I had the coffee ready. "Mark Davis?" he said, sighing. His name tag said Frank. "Frank, good to see you. Coffee?" "Please." He took the mug. "Okay, let's see it. Mrs. Henderson at 428 has been prolific in her calls. She's filed complaints for illegal business operation, unpermitted construction, noise violations, and, my personal favorite, architectural terrorism." "Architectural terrorism?" I said. "That's a new one." She said the dumpster was aggressive. "So what am I really looking at, Mark? Because I've got a pool inspection at 2, and I don't want to be here." I led him into the garage. Big Dave was there, holding the plans. Frank looked around. He looked at the walls. He checked the electrical permit. He looked at the new, heavy-duty, insulated garage door they'd just installed. "It's a lot of drywall, Mark," Frank said, sipping the coffee. "Building a panic room?" "Something like that," I said. "Just for music." "Brenda!" Frank called out. She was naturally on the edge of my property line, phone out. "It's a garage renovation. He's insulating. The electrical is to code. He's allowed." But, it's a business," she shrieked. "It's a garage, ma'am," Frank yelled back, his patience snapping. "A very, very quiet garage. Now please, stop calling my office. I'm trying to inspect a pool." He turned back to me, lowered his voice, and gave me a little wink. "Looks great. Don't forget to seal the door gasket. That's where you'll get the most sound leak." He handed me the mug, signed the paper, and left, a hero of the working man. Section 3.2. The Soundcheckte Tapstun. Completion. Big Dave stood in the middle of the garage, arms crossed, beaming like a proud father. The last bit of acoustic sealant had been caulked. The new, heavy, solid core door, the one that led into the house, was shut. The new, insulated garage door rumbled shut, sealing the fortress from the world. "Well," Dave said, "she's built." The kids were already inside, setting up their gear on the new stage. My wife, Sarah, was standing in the driveway with me, and across the street, on her porch, was Brenda. Watching. Always watching. "All right, kids," Big Dave said, speaking into his phone. "Leo, you hear me?" Leo's voice crackled back. "Loud and clear, Mr. Dave. We're ready? Okay, Kyle, I want you to hit those drums, and I want you to hit them like you're angry at them. Give me your worst. The rest of you, turn it up to 11. "I'll stand outside," I said, my heart pounding. This was it, the $15,000 moment of truth. "I'll stand with you," Sarah said, grabbing my hand. We stood in the driveway. Dave stood next to us, a look of profound professional calm on his face. Leo texted me, "Okay, we're playing. Teen Spirit. Loud." I braced myself. And then, nothing. Nothing. I heard a bird chirp. I heard a light breeze rustle the leaves of my oak tree. Far in the distance, a lawnmower started. But from my garage, 20 feet away, not a peep, not a rumble, not a hint of a bass line. It was the most beautiful, glorious, expensive silence I had ever not heard. Are they? Sarah whispered. I texted Leo. "Are you playing?" My phone buzzed. "Yeah, it sounds sick in here." I looked at Big Dave. He was just grinning. "Decoupling, Mark. It's a beautiful thing." I couldn't help myself. I walked to the edge of my property, right past Brenda's lawn. I held up my phone, which had a decibel meter app running. I showed it to her. 40 dB, the ambient sound of the suburbs. She was squinting. She was baffled. She knew they were in there. She could see the lights were on through the small garage window, but she couldn't hear anything. I just gave her a polite smile. A little shrug. Maybe I mouthed allergies? Her face was a beautiful, priceless portrait of confusion and rage. I went back to the garage and opened the heavy door. A wall of noise. Pure, unadulterated, terrible teenage rock hit me in the face. It was deafening. The kids were sweating, faces red, having the time of their lives. "It works!" I yelled over the din. "What?" Leo screamed back. "It works!" Section 3.3. The Eventbrite Epiphany. That night, the house was blissfully quiet. Too quiet. I was so used to the low-level thud-thud-thud of the bass. Now there was nothing. I was in the living room, savoring a victory beer. Sarah was reading on the couch. "You're a menace, Mark Davis," she said, not looking up from her book. "I'm a problem solver," I corrected. "You spent $15,000 to silence a teenager. You could have just, taken his guitar away." "Ah, but that wouldn't have solved the problem. That would have just delayed it. This is a permanent solution." I could hear faintly the t-t-t of Kyle's drumsticks on his practice pad. The kids were in the studio, but I had to strain to hear them. It was perfect. "Well," Sarah said, smiling, "they're in there. They're so happy. Leo said it feels like a real band. It's a shame, really. No one can hear them." I stopped. My beer was halfway to my mouth. "What did you just say?" I said it's a shame no one can hear them. A light bulb didn't just go on. A full-blown, stadium-sized Klieg light ignited in my brain. "That's it," I said, setting my beer down. "You're a genius." "I am?" "You're an absolute, unmitigated genius." I grabbed my laptop from my bag. "The project isn't done. I missed a deliverable." "A what? Mark, what are you doing?" I was already typing. She didn't just want it quiet, Sarah. She wanted them gone. She wanted to win. She needs to know they're not gone. She needs to know they're in there, rocking. What's the point of a silent, spite-fueled victory if the antagonist doesn't know she's lost? I'm not following, Sarah said, but she was already getting the scheme look on her face. What's the point of a concert, I said, my fingers flying, if no one comes? I pulled up Eventbrite.com. My project manager brain was firing on all cylinders. Event title: Suburban Tinnitus, the Silenced Tour, 1 night only. Event location: the driveway at 4:15. Lawn chairs and coolers welcome. Event description: by popular demand of one very special neighbor, our local garage band has gone silent. But their rock lives on. Come to the quietest concert in America. Come hang out on the lawn, bring the kids, and not hear the music. Witness the fortress of silence for yourself. Tickets, $1. $1? Sarah asked, reading over my shoulder. Wait for it, I said. I'm not done. I added a line at the bottom. All proceeds will be collected and donated to the Mrs. H's Neighborhood Peace Fund, which will then be immediately re-gifted to the Springfield High School music program. I stared at the screen. It was perfect. It was petty. It was for charity. It was bulletproof. Mark, Sarah said, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across her face. You are an evil, evil man. I'm a project manager, honey. I'm just seeing the project through to completion. I hit publish. Hitting publish on Eventbrite was just the fuse. The Springfield Community Forum on Facebook. That was the powder keg. Our town's community forum is a special place. It's a glorious digital train wreck where people argue about loose dogs, complain about the new stop sign, and ask for recommendations for plumbers who won't rip them off. It's the beating, gossiping heart of our suburb, and I was about to give it a full-blown coronary. I took a deep breath, cracked my knuckles, and composed my post. I coated it in a thick, sickly sweet layer of community language. Hi, neighbors. Just wanted to give a huge shout-out to our new neighbor, Brenda Henderson, over at 428. As some of you know, my son and his friends have a little garage band. They're called Suburban Tinnitus, and bless their hearts, they're pretty loud. Brenda was kind enough to point out that the noise was, well, tacky. She inspired us. We realized we had to be better neighbors. So, for the past 2 weeks, we've been on a little project, huge thanks to Big Dave's renovations, and we've built a full professional-grade soundproof studio in our garage. Now the kids can practice 24/7, and our neighbors can enjoy their sensitive dispositions in peace. To celebrate this new era of neighborhood quiet, we're throwing a little party this Friday night. It's the Suburban Tinnitus, the Silenced Tour. We're selling $1 tickets as a charity fundraiser. Come on down, bring a lawn chair, and join us in not hearing a single note. Link to the concert is below. All proceeds go to the high school music program. Thanks again for the inspiration, Brenda. I tagged her. I tagged Big Dave. I posted the Eventbrite link. And I sat back. It didn't take long. My post was a match to a gasoline-soaked pile of dry leaves. 5 minutes, a single laugh emoji from Bob, 3 doors down. 10 minutes, 20 laugh emojis. 5 wow emojis. 12 minutes, the first comment from a woman named Suburban Mom 22. This is the most beautifully petty, passive-aggressive Springfield thing I have ever seen in my life. I'm buying 10 tickets. Minutes. OMG, Mark, you're a legend. We've all had a Brenda. 17 minutes. Is this for real? I'll bring a cooler. 20 minutes. Big Dave's Renovations commented, "It was our pleasure, Mark. We believe in supporting local music and quality soundproofing." 22 minutes. The explosion. A comment from Brenda Henderson herself. "This is harassment. You are tagging me. You are running an illegal business from your home, and I have reported you to the police and the city and the IRS. This concert is a violation of all decent neighborhood bylaws. You are a child. This is not over." The comments. Oh, the comments. "Brenda, honey, he's allowed to have a party. Take a Xanax." Wait, so the Neighborhood Peace Fund is you? LOL. Brenda, did you really call the IRS on a Waller charity donation? I'm buying 20 tickets just because of this comment. Then, the final beautiful chef's kiss from the forum admin, Admin Janice. "Brenda, I've reviewed your 8 reports on this post. Mr. Davis is not in violation of any forum rules. He is promoting a community-based charity event. Please stop using the report button. You are overwhelming my inbox." The 100 tickets I'd listed sold out in an hour. People were now scalping them in the comments. Selling my 2 tickets for $5, also for charity. The local high school band director even chimed in, "The Springfield High Marching Band thanks Mr. Davis and Suburban Tinnitus for their support. We'll see you Friday." My phone was blowing up. Texts from friends. "Dude, is this real?" My wife is crying, laughing. "You are my new hero." I just sat there, sipping my now warm beer. Phase 4 was well underway. Section 4.2. The Business Complaint. The next 2 days were a blur of neighborhood hype. I saw neighbors I hadn't spoken to in months, and they'd just give me a thumbs up and a sly grin. "See you Friday, Mark." But I knew it wasn't over. Brenda wasn't the type to go down easy. I was in my yard on Thursday, the day before the concert, pretending to inspect my hydrangeas. Right on cue, the cruiser pulled up. Officers Miller and Chen. They looked so tired. Miller didn't even turn the siren or lights on. He just stopped. He rolled down the passenger window. Chen was in the passenger seat, holding his phone. "Mark," Miller grunted. He didn't even get out of the car. "We're on a first-name basis now. I'm not here officially. I'm here as a tired man." "Officers," I said, strolling over, leaning on the door. "Fancy seeing you here." "Trouble in the neighborhood?" Chen sighed, and it was the sigh of a man who had lost his faith in humanity. "Mark, what is Eventbrite?" "It's a ticketing platform, Officer Chen. You know, for events, parties, charity fundraisers." "She's saying," Miller cut in, and I quote, "he's running an illegal, unlicensed commercial concert venue. She's saying you're profiting from a business in your garage. She sent us the link. She sent the chief the link. She sent the mayor the link. My wife saw it on Facebook." "My wife too," Chen mumbled. She bought 4 tickets." I fought hard to keep my face straight. "A business? Officers, I have a $15,000 invoice from Big Dave's Renovations that categorically proves this is the worst business in the history of America. We've raised so far $100. $100, which I have already prepaid, via check, to the Springfield High Music Program. I have the receipt." I pulled it from my back pocket. I'd been waiting for this. Miller took the receipt. He looked at it. He looked at Chen. Chen just shrugged. Miller handed it back. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "I'm enjoying the silence, officer. The soundproofing? It works. It's a dream." "I bet it is," Miller said. He put the car in drive. Look, we're not coming back. Officially, this is a community block party. And as long as it doesn't violate the 10 p.m. noise ordinance, we have been strongly encouraged to not get involved. Understood. But Mark, Miller said, pausing. Yeah? Don't block the sidewalk. She's already called the fire marshal about public egress. Noted. Sidewalks will remain clear. And just between us? Chen said, leaning over. The chief thinks it's hilarious. But you did not hear that from me. Good luck. They pulled away. I stood in my driveway, the receipt in my hand, feeling a sense of calm I hadn't felt in weeks. The project was fully funded, fully permitted, and now fully sanctioned by the exasperated local police. Section 4.3. The final piece. I went to bed that night, but a thought was nagging me, a loose thread, a flaw in the project scope. I sat up in bed at 2 a.m. Sarah mumbled next to me. What? What's wrong? The project, I whispered. It's flawed. Mark, the project is fine. Go to sleep. No, you don't understand. I was in project manager mode. The band is silent. The garage is silent. But the crowd won't be. People will be on my lawn. What's the point of the soundproofing if the audience that paid, can't hear the terrible music? What? The deliverable is the concert. The audience needs to hear the concert. But if I open the garage door, I've broken the soundproofing. I've broken the premise. I've failed. Mark, you're having a 2 a.m. crisis about a joke party. It's not a joke, Sarah. It's malicious compliance. It has to be perfect. I got out of bed. I went to my laptop. The project scope wasn't flawed. It was just incomplete. I needed a Phase 5. The next morning, 8 a.m., Friday, the day of the show. My phone rang. Big Dave's renovations. Dave, it's Mark. I need a Phase 2. I heard him laugh. It sounded like an engine trying to turn over. I saw the Facebook post, kid. I've been waiting for this call. What now? You want a pyrotechnics rig? Not yet. I need audio. The band is in the box. The crowd is outside the box. I need to get the sound from the inside to the outside, but controllably. A long, respectful pause on the other end. You are a sick, beautiful man, Mark. A true artist. You want to mic the studio and run a feed to a PA. Exactly. I need to control the outside volume, so when the cops show up again, I can show them a decibel reading that's 100% street legal. Can you do it? Do I still have the 100-foot audio snake from my poison chalice days in the truck? Dave mused. Yes, I do. I'll be right over. I'll bring some speakers. An hour later, Big Dave was back. We ran a thick, professional audio cable from the new, tiny mixer I'd bought for the kids inside the studio, through a small, sealed, insulated port Dave had installed just in case, under the garage door and around to my front porch. There, he set up 2 professional, medium-sized PA speakers on stands. He plugged them into a small amplifier. There, he said, handing me the final, beautiful piece of the puzzle. This is your master volume knob. This right here controls the entire neighborhood's destiny. I turned it. It had a smooth, weighted feel. It was a knob of pure, unadulterated power. It's beautiful, Dave. I know, kid. Now go rock on, or, make other people listen to your kids, not rock on. Friday night, 6:30 p.m. The sun was starting to dip, painting the sky in shades of orange and lawsuit. And my lawn, My lawn was a sea of suburban rebellion. It was amazing. People I hadn't seen in years were here. Neighbors I only ever waved to from a car were unfolding lawn chairs. Coolers were everywhere. Kids were running around with glow sticks. Bob from 3 doors down was arguing with my other neighbor, Phil, about the best way to grill ribs. It wasn't a protest. It wasn't a concert. It was a full-blown tailgate at the Tacky. My hilariously petty Facebook post had done more for neighborhood unity than the last 10 HOA potlucks combined. Everyone was here for 2 reasons. 1, to support the kids. 2, to be part of the joke. And 3, to see Brenda Henderson's face when the silent concert started. My phone was buzzing. People were checking in on Facebook. At the Silenced tour, it's so quiet. This concert is not fire. I saw admin Janice from the Facebook group arrive. She gave me a high five. This is the best forum drama to real-life event I've ever seen, Mark. Well done. The high school band director was there, wearing a Springfield High marching band, windbreaker, collecting extra donations in a bucket. The band thanks you, he said, shaking my hand vigorously. We're going to use this for new drumheads. Happy to help, I said. And then there was Brenda. Oh, she was there. She was on her porch, of course. She wasn't just watching. She was filming. She had her phone on a small tripod, aimed directly at my house. She was on her phone, presumably, to the police, the mayor, the governor, and probably the UN Security Council. She was vibrating with a rage so pure it was almost visible, like a heat haze. My neighbor Phil leaned in. Dude, she looks like she's about to go full-blown final boss. You sure about this? The project plan is sound, I said, tapping my temple. All risks have been mitigated. If you say so, he laughed, and cracked open a beer. Section 5.2. The show begins 7:00 p.m. Showtime. The garage door was shut. The fortress of silence was sealed. Inside, I knew, were Leo, Kyle, and Sam. They were nervous. They were thrilled. Leo had texted me 40 times. Is it time? Is it time now? How many people are there? Kyle's gonna puke. I stepped up to my front porch, which was now, effectively, the main stage. I tapped the microphone that Big Dave had plugged into the PA system. A little thump-thump echoed over the lawn. The crowd quieted. 100 pairs of eyes, plus one very angry pair from across the street, were on me. Good evening, Springfield, I said into the mic. My voice was a little shaky. And welcome to the Silenced tour. A huge cheer went up from the lawn. People whistled. As you know, I continued, this event was inspired by our new neighbor, Brenda, who reminded us all of the value of peace and quiet. I gestured across the street. A few people booed, but I shushed them. No, we thank her. Because of her, our band is now silent. I pointed dramatically to the sealed garage. Right now, in that garage, in the fortress of silence, suburban tinnitus is playing their hearts out. Leo is shredding. Kyle is drumming. Sam is bassing. They are rocking in total silence. The crowd played along. It was beautiful. Oh, wow, someone yelled. I can't hear a thing. This is amazing. This is the best non-concert I've ever been to. People held up their phone flashlights and waved them at the silent garage. They shh-ed each other. Turn it down, Phil yelled, and a new wave of laughter rolled through the crowd. I looked across the street. Brenda was baffled. She was staring. She couldn't hear a thing. It was working. This was just a quiet, 100-person party on a lawn. It was weird. It was bizarre. But it wasn't illegal. She looked defeated. Her shoulders slumped. I let the moment hang. I let her savor the quiet she'd demanded. "But," I said into the mic, a smile creeping across my face, "I know you all paid your $1. You came here for a show, and we wouldn't want you to miss the magic of their music." I let my hand drift over to the mixer on the porch table, to the single, beautiful master volume knob. "So, thanks to our friends at Big Dave's, we've set up a little direct audio feed. Section 5.3, the grand finale." Brenda's head snapped up. She knew. She knew she'd been had. I turned the knob. A wall of glorious, terrible noise erupted from the 2 PA speakers on my porch. Ba-da-da-dum-dum, krish. It was suburban tinnitus, live and unfiltered. Leo's guitar was out of tune. Kyle's drumming was enthusiastic. Sam's bass was a low, indiscernible thud. It was the sound of 3 teenagers trying to play "Smells Like Teen Spirit" and failing with all their hearts. And it was the most beautiful music I'd ever heard. The crowd went wild. They weren't just cheering, they were roaring. They were headbanging. They were laughing so hard they were doubled over. And the sound was the best part. It wasn't coming from the garage. It was coming from my porch. And it wasn't even that loud. I had the master volume knob set to a neighborly 6. It was no louder than a decent backyard BBQ. It was a reasonable volume. Brenda was screaming. I couldn't hear her over the music and the crowd, but I could see her. She was on her lawn, phone to her ear, jabbing her finger at my house. She was livid. Right on cue, the finale. The flashing blue and red lights cut through the dusk. Officers Miller and Chen. They were here. This time they got out of the car. Miller was holding the decibel meter. Brenda ran up to them. "There! You hear it! Shut it down! It's a concert! A loud, illegal concert!" Officer Miller just held up a hand to quiet her. He looked at me. I gave him a little wave from the porch. He walked up my driveway, the crowd parting for him. He stood 10 feet from the PA speaker and held up the decibel meter. He looked at it. He sighed. "Brenda," he called out, walking back to the street. "At 10 feet, it's 70 dB. That's about the volume of a vacuum cleaner." He walked to the edge of her property line, the closest point to the noise. He held up the meter again. "At your property line, ma'am, it's 55 dB. That is well below the 90 decibel noise ordinance limit for 10 p.m. It's just music, ma'am." But, the garage," she sputtered. "The business, the tickets, the Facebook." Officer Chen stepped up, holding the receipt I'd given him the day before. "It's a party, ma'am. He's allowed to have a party. And the $100 raised? He's already sent the receipt for the donation to the high school. It's all annoyingly legal." The crowd heard. A new cheer went up. "It's legal!" Brenda Henderson looked at the cops. She looked at the cheering crowd. She looked at me, standing on my porch next to the master volume knob. She was utterly, completely, and legally defeated. She did the only thing she could. She let out a shriek. A raw, primal, "I have lost all control" shriek that was, I swear to God, louder than the PA system. Then she spun on her heel, stormed back into her house, and slammed the door. The crowd was silent for a beat. Then I turned to them. "So, suburban tinnitus!" I yelled into the mic, and the lawn full of 100 people exploded in the biggest cheer of the night. The concert was, by all accounts, the social event of the season. The band played 3 songs, twice, because they only knew 3 songs. After their set, I faded the volume, and the event just turned into a party. A real, actual block party. People mingled. Phil and Bob argued amicably about their grilling techniques. Admin Janice got into a deep discussion with the high school band director about forum moderation. It was nice. The biggest moment came around 8 p.m. I faded the PA music, which had switched to a classic rock Spotify playlist, and made an announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, will you please give it up for the band?" I went to the garage and opened the heavy soundproof door. Leo, Kyle, and Sam emerged. They were drenched in sweat. They had no idea what had just happened outside. They'd just been in a black box, playing their hearts out. They walked out into the driveway, and the crowd of 100 people erupted in thunderous, genuine applause. Leo's face. I'll never forget it. He'd just been a dorky 16-year-old. He walked out of that garage, a dorky 16-year-old, who was also a rock god. People were patting him on the back. "You guys sounded loud. Great set." Kyle was signing an autograph on a napkin for a neighbor's 8-year-old. Sam, the bassist, just looked stunned, holding a can of Coke someone had handed him. "Dad," Leo said, his eyes wide. This is insane." "Don't get used to it," I said, clapping him on the shoulder. "But yeah, pretty cool." Big Dave was there, nursing a beer I'd saved for him. He'd been watching from the back. "Told you, Mark," he rumbled, giving me a nod. "Spite jobs are the most satisfying. Best sounding, terrible. Band I've ever heard. The acoustics in that box are prime." "Couldn't have done it without you, Dave." "I know," he grinned. By 9:30 p.m., people were packing up their chairs. The street was quiet. The party was over. Everything was, as promised, 100% legal and respectful of the 10 p.m. ordinance. Section 6.2. The Sound of Silence. A week later, life had returned to normal, or the new normal. I was in my office, back on a Zoom call. It was with Mr. Nakamura. He'd actually replied to my email, his assistant saying he appreciated my creativity in solving my alarm issue. I think someone had sent him the Facebook post. As I was presenting my new, improved data flow, I realized something. I heard silence. Not the 40 dB ambient suburban silence. I mean the real silence of an empty house. I panicked. Had they given up? Had the high of the concert worn off? Was the $15,000 studio already obsolete? I wrapped the call, successfully this time, and crept downstairs. I walked to the heavy, soundproof door that led from the mudroom into the garage studio. I listened. Nothing. My heart sank. I eased the door open, just a crack. The kids were in there. The lights were on. But they weren't playing. They were talking. I listened. "No, Kyle," Leo was saying, his guitar on his lap. "The fill there is too much. You're rushing, just a kick snare. Simple. Sam, can you follow my root note on the verse? Just thump thump. Don't walk it." "Oh," Sam said. "Like this?" He played a simple, clean, in-time bass line. "Yes," Leo said. "Exactly. Okay, let's try it again. From the top." They weren't just banging. They weren't just making noise. They were practicing. It was the weirdest thing, the fortress of silence I had built out of spite. It hadn't just been a place to be loud. It had become a place to be creative, a place where they could hear each other, a place where they could actually learn. They were still terrible. Don't get me wrong. But they were collaboratively terrible. They were a band. I smiled. I quietly closed the heavy door, the click of the latch sealing them back into their world. The project was a complete success. Section 6.3. The Bow. A month later, I was on my lawn, mowing. It was a beautiful Saturday. A large white truck pulled up to 428. The blue Colonial. 2 men got out and started hammering a sign into Brenda's yard. A for sale sign. I killed the mower. The new quietest family on the block was moving in next to the other quietest family on the block. I walked over. "Moving out?" I asked the realtor, a woman I didn't recognize. "Oh, yes," she said, all business. "The owner is highly motivated. Said the neighborhood was just too noisy for her. Apparently there's a problem with local music?" "Really?" I said, feigning shock. I hadn't heard. We even got a thank you note from the Springfield High Music Program. It was addressed to Mark Davis and the Neighborhood Peace Fund. The $100 donation, which had grown to $350 after the party, had, in fact, bought several new drumheads. Leo's band is now practicing for the school's Battle of the Bands. They've even written a new original song. It's called Sensitive Disposition. They're probably going to lose. But as I sit here in my home office, listening to the blissful, beautiful nothing coming from my garage, I don't really care. I'll be damned if they don't have the most professional-sounding silence in the entire state. She wanted us to keep it down. So we did. We just kept it down in a way that cost $15,000, involved 2 contractors and 3 police visits, and ended with a legendary block party. As my son would say, "Rock on."